derive from the same source. Okay, I get my thing going. All right. Good to see you all again. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Still talking about the sources of violence. Now talking about functional violence. Our environment influences us. It's that rock music, right? Well, you guys don't really have that. You didn't grow up with that, but in the 80s and the 90s, I did. Especially in the 80s, were big court cases like was it Judas Priest that got sued? I think it was the band members of Judas Priest. There she is. Got sued because some kid killed himself after listening to their music, and apparently one of the lyrics in one of the songs, what was it? I think it was called "Suicide Solution." And there was some lyric that kept saying, "Do it, do it, do it," or a backwards lyric of some sort, "Do it, do it, do it." And they were claiming that this caused him to kill himself. And then you had the whole congressional committee on rock music, stuff like that. Because they thought that, lyrics were too violent or too sexual or too whatever, There she. Hey, Miss Cook. How's it going? Well, hopefully I can make that better. And that's where, like, if any of you on your video games or on, I don't know if you buy CDs anymore. I still buy CDs just because I want the stuff in my library. I don't trust stuff on my, it's too easy. I know when it's too hard for me to lose a CD. But it's too easy for me with all the junk on my computer to accidentally delete or misfile an MP3. But anyways, they have on your games and stuff, parental advisory. This game is suitable for these ages. This music, there's explicit lyrics. You've never seen these things, Mr. Dobson? You can thank the 80s for that. We contributed that to you. You're welcome, sir. Congress mandated that if there are explicit lyrics, then it has to be, out, it has to be advertised, so parents will know not to buy the music for their children. Yeah, right. Yeah. That's like telling kids they can't have a cell phone, It's like, although we didn't have cell phones back then, but obviously then that meant that for the rockers or the artists, it'd be as explicit as they want. It actually broke the boundary. Before that, they wanted to talk about sex and drugs, which is usually what they were talking about. Because I did listen to them. I heard the music. You had to kind of talk about it in a metaphorical roundabout way. You couldn't come out explicitly. But now you can, as long as you put explicit lyrics on it, parental advisory, you could use the F word freely. You could talk explicitly about sexual actions or violent actions or whatever. But the question was in the 80s, does this having so much of this explicitness, okay? And if you listen, if you watch VH1 Classic or something, and you see some of these videos from the 80s, they're not that explicit, right? I mean, start looking at stuff from the 90s and the 2000s, and, Miley Cyrus, yeah? What happened to her? She used to be a nice girl on the Disney Channel, and then all of a sudden she's half naked, What was the big thing that she did? No. There was a move. I'm sorry. You might be right, but I'm thinking of something else. The shank. What do they call it? I forget what it was. Anyways, it doesn't matter. You know what? That's okay, Mr. Ant. Okay, I don't want to lead you into an occasion of sin. That's not worth it. Okay. And parents were worried when I was growing up. It's the rock music, especially the heavy metal. Which, yeah, when I was growing up, some of it was really, even as a teenager, some of it was really kind of weird, very occult. very into the devil, and so that's why I avoided it because I was religious and stuff. But some of it very anti-religious, extremely anti-religious. And you didn't even have to be religious to know that. But all sorts of pictures and things making fun of Christ or lyrics and stuff like that. Not all of them. I mean, surprisingly, like Ozzy Osbourne, who died a few months ago. Ozzy Osbourne, the great heavy metal Ozzy Osbourne. He actually, was kind of cool. He wasn't a Christian, but he did believe in God, and members of his bands were Christian, and they wrote one of the most explicitly Christian songs I've ever heard, even from Christian bands, which was, I don't remember the title of it because I'm not a fan of Black Sabbath or Ozzy. I didn't really listen to a lot of it. But, it was very explicitly Christian, pro-Christian. It wasn't anti-religion. Why am I talking about this? Well, I'm thinking about religion and violence. Okay? Video games are violent. Well, I grew up with video games too, and they were violent in cartoons. I grew up watching Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck and, stuff like that. And they're violent, people get hit. It's cartoonish violence, right? You know that. It's a cartoon. It's not real because it's a cartoon. It's not real people. But I remember when we had arcades. You don't have these anymore. But when I was growing up, you go into the token arcade, you need money, you buy your whole handful of tokens, and you start putting them in the video games, and you're just there, you're playing all these video games. And then, like in the 90s, it got a little extreme. I remember they had the, martial arts, which is the Mortal Kombat. And the earliest forms of Mortal Kombat on the arcade games, I mean, they had moves where the guy would, send a chain with some kind of clutch or grabber on it, out of his arm, and would grab the guy, the other opponent, and rip his heart out, and that was the kill move. And whenever they kicked each other, they'd be spurting blood all over the place and stuff. And people thought that was just too explicit, so they eventually had to tone it down. Those kitties were becoming too violent. Well, I will say we had no Columbines when I was growing up. That was a new one. And the 90s kids invented that one, not me. We would have thought about, when I was in high school, it was like a building like this, But now if you look at, maybe the high schools you were in, but I look from the outside because I'm not going to high school. Registered games, I hope not. Not even to visit. It's like visiting a prison. All the windows are small or recessed, All the doors are always locked. We never locked the doors in our high school. They're all open. We weren't locked. None of them. It was free movement. Well, couldn't kids get in and out? Yeah, of course. But it just didn't enter into our minds. And we still had guns around, but I don't know why it didn't enter into our minds. And then it did enter into some kids' mind, or a group of kids, 2 kids, and shoot the place up. Columbine, that was a complete novelty. Where did that come from? No one had done that before. But now it's happened hundreds of times, right? Where did the violence come from? Again, the music. They were listening to Marilyn Manson. Remember him? Marilyn Manson? The Satanist rocker? And he was a Satanist. He still is a Satanist. Hopefully he'll get saved. That's my prayer. Give his life to Jesus. But he was a Satanist. He was open about it. Maybe not literally a Satanist, but Satan as a metaphor for anti-God. Well, these kids were listening to Marilyn Manson, They were into that. What video games were they playing? Shooting people up, killing them. Am I going anywhere with this, or am I just talking to the paint on the wall? Is it? Huh? There is a point to what I'm talking about, okay? I'm trying to make it relevant to show that this is an academic course, okay? But these are things that you are going to really, if you want to or not, whether you agree with me or not, or think I'm off my mark or whatever, that's fine. You can tell me. But I think once some of you, or maybe many of you, start becoming parents in the next 5 years or 10 years, okay? Some of you may already be parents. I don't know. Never know. I don't judge. Don't know. I'm not trying to pry. But that you start seeing things differently, just like your parents did. So yeah, your parents did stuff. Your parents may have smoked dope in the 90s or in the 2000s. Well, yeah, in the 90s, they might have been smoking dope when it was illegal, or going to spring break and getting drunk and stuff like that. But they now tell you don't do those things. Well, they're hypocrites because they did them. You had the fun. Now you don't want me to have it. Oh, okay, fine. Maybe we're all hypocrites. But it's also, and I'm a hypocrite too, but it's also that experience. I know what the danger is now because I did it, you know. And sometimes it was fun. Yeah, getting high was fun. I'm not saying, Ms. Cook, I ever got high. All right, that's not what I'm saying. I have gotten drunk a few times, not intentionally, but I just was enjoying myself at the night. But but you know the dangers. You know what can happen. Some person goes on spring break. Parents say, don't watch what your people give you. Don't drink too much, or even don't drink at all. Don't get high. Stay away. If people are sitting around smoking dope, get away. Well, okay, you probably already saying to yourself, that's not going to happen. But you'll tell them, right? You'll tell them, yeah, okay. But I'm going to have fun. I'm not going to go down there not to have fun. Okay, that's fine. You know what should be the motto of spring break? No, it should be the motto of spring break. And you can change the pronoun how you want it. He was last seen, or usually it seems to be, she was last seen. So your parents aren't so dumb, even if they might be hypocrites, and I'm a hypocrite too. We know some of the nasties out there, but yeah, and I'm not trying to ruin your fun or anything, but think about these things. When we're talking about violence and aggression. How, do they not have any? I mean, if you have a kid, okay, is a kid just playing violent video games or reading violent books, violent comics, which now are called graphic novels, right, Miss Ying? When I was growing up, we called them comic books. But now Ms. Krause, they're graphic novels. 3 years still reading comic books. Well, okay, what else? And I played violent video games growing up, and I didn't really read violent comic books or anything. I wasn't into that. But some people are. All right, I'm probably not going to worry about the kid who's doing it that can leave it there, right, Ms. Rogers? I'm going to worry about the kid that's really maybe getting into it. And no? Like enjoying it. Okay, Ms. Rogers. But have you ever played video games? You play video games? Do you like them, or you've played them? Okay, yeah. Waste time and stuff. Huh? Was that Ms. Krause or Mr. Henry, or comment? I don't play. I still play old school stuff because the new stuff is just too complicated for me. But it seems from what I can see, look at Steam and stuff like that. The video games, many of them are either, if they're not sports, they're shooters, right? Like army games and stuff like that. It seems like a lot of them are. People get into teams and they go around and they act like they're in World War II or they're killing zombies. Yes, no, I mean, no gamers in the room. Even a really, really recent reference I can't go anywhere with? All right, Mr. Ant. Mr. Dobson. Change to Well, we talked about mixed martial arts. You, Ms. Cook, said you grew up with a bunch of brothers, right? And you like mixed martial arts, right? Why? Because it was on TV all the time? They were watching it? Huh?
Yeah.
Do you think that normally, under other circumstances, well, I should say normally, because that was your normal, if take the brothers out of the equation, if you were an only child or were sisters, do you think you would have still gravitated towards mixed martial arts? Huh? You don't think so? So you recognize there's a part of it that repels you that you probably wouldn't like? Wouldn't attract you to it?
I mean, I feel like it's not something that everybody watches. It's not like football.
Yeah, but why would you not watch?
I just don't know if I would have ever known that.
Oh, you might not even known about it. Well, why not? Why not?
It's not constantly being played.
That's true. But then how would your brothers know about it? How would they find it? Huh? Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm just wondering. I mean, if you couldn't find, I mean, if it's not out there that much, why? Were they seeking it? Were they looking out for it? I don't know. I'm just asking. Talked about it before. I don't know. The presence of brothers, of males, we learned, yes, that biologically it seems from studies that have been done, the male of our species is more prone to aggression, yes? Seeks it out, does it, performs it, right? So does that tie in at all to maybe what we're talking? Like, if you don't mind me using Ms. Cook as an example, is that okay?
You're good.
Yeah. If you grew up, or maybe I'll be more general. You know, if you were a woman and you grew up with men, you grew up with mainly brothers, who, were, punching each other and, how they are wrestling and running around and you as a female gravitate towards, okay, maybe sports, maybe probably one of the sports here at school. Would you have done that if you had not been around males so much? Would that have interested you? Get paid on Friday. As I count my bills, I say the names of my students. Rouse and me. Grace. Well, if I can't make you be interested, at least I'll try to make you laugh. Why not? Because otherwise I'm going to start crying, Mr. Saunders. Yes, you don't want to see a fat man cry. Or maybe you do, Mr. Saunders. You could put on Snapchat. Is that what is Snapchat anyways? What is it? What is it used for? Huh? Violence? Really? Is it videos, pictures, messages? What? Huh?
All of the above.
All right. Just for violence. So, okay, so let's run with that one. Ms. Lazarus, are you on Snapchat at all? Do you have a Snapchat account? No? Did you ever look at it? No. I'm sorry, Ms. Lazarus, what did you say? Instagram, okay. That's basically just pictures, right? Okay. Well, for the sake of my argument, see how I manipulate things, Mr. Klitsch? For the sake of argument, let's stay with Snapchat. Is anyone a big Snapchatter? You're on Snapchat all the time? You're on Snapchat right now? I'm not going to get angry. Nobody? Well, apparently you know something about it, Mr. Henry. So are you on it a lot? No, but you know it's... Okay. What?
No,
You just know what it is. Yeah, I didn't even know. I don't know what it is. Huh? It is a popular app. Is it popular with you, Mr. Gaines?
First time I downloaded it.
Really? So something that is very popular, apparently popular, that nobody uses, at least not in this class. You're all a bunch of Amish. Yes, Mr. Henry? Huh? What? No. What? Violence. You trolling me? All right. Well, I mean, at what point does it become influential? Can we say it has no influence on what you're, I mean, why are you going to worry if you have kids? Oh, turn that off or don't listen to that and stuff like that. Or why were your parents telling you not to watch these things? At what point does it have no influence? I mean, if you're watching a sport where people are beating each other senseless, I'm not judging it. Okay? I don't like it. That's my bias. So now you know. All right? But they are beating each other senseless, you know, or certainly bloody. Usually the guys and the women come out certainly bloody and sweaty, very sweaty. Okay, all right. What influence does that have on me as a person? Does it have any influence? Yeah.
I think it depends on the child is.
Okay.
Like, like a younger child. Like, when I was younger and I was watching WWE and stuff, like I was trying to wrestle. And remember, and when I got older, watching UFC, not trying to play anybody with chokehold.
So they had to tell you specifically WWE or
I just like grew out of it. Like
okay.
I just realized it was entertainment.
You knew there was a boundary. Yeah, that you couldn't choke someone unconscious. Does everyone know the boundary? I mean, that's where I'm kind of, I know I'm not trying to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I am trying to, I guess what I'm trying to do, oh, wait a second. What I'm trying to argue for, I say integrity. What I'm trying to argue for is maybe against the idea that there's an assumption that certain things don't have any effect at all. So if you have kids, if you, for example, are watching Nickelodeon, then you grow up watching Nickelodeon, stuff like that. And there was a documentary, I haven't seen the documentary, but I heard about it and stuff. What was it called? I can't remember the name of it. I don't remember the name of it. Well, anyways, the document, I'd have to look at the documentary on Nickelodeon and how many child abusers they found working for Nickelodeon, which is a child's network, right, geared towards children. Children and young adults, as we call them now, 14, 16. But there are a lot of usually men, you know, I'm not saying women don't ever do it, but it's usually men. But the guys who had either a record or some kind of history of child sexual abuse. And no one in Nickelodeon seemed to mind that. I mean, I'm like not saying maybe they didn't know, but in some cases it's like they might have known, but they didn't dig very deeply. They weren't too worried about something. I don't know. Anyways, but so there's this whole documentary, but the documentary, this was the point of the documentary. If you looked at Nickelodeon, how these people with these proclivities were writing the stories for these kids to act out, things to do, things to wear. It was just, now, you can't always say there's a one-to-one. This is just a documentary. They're just, documenting what they might have an agenda. I don't know. their work was very sexualizing of the kids on the shows. You know, the actions they had them doing were not just like, if you thought about it, they weren't just like innocent actions. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to give you some of the details because I don't want to incite anyone's imagination, but maybe you can see this especially with like, watch how some little kids dress. Now, it's one thing if Beyonce comes out and she's, you know, exposing her midriff, or she's wearing a G-string all the way up her cleft, and yeah. I guess it's one thing. You go to a concert and it's a woman, she dresses a certain way. Okay, fine. She's certainly not dressing in a ball gown, is she, Ms. Oran? Although maybe sometimes she is, you know, like Taylor Swift comes out. I've seen her in like slinky gray sequin thing, you know. But then she also seems to come out and stuff where I don't look. I just, you know, I go like this. But then you see it with little kids. People let little kids dress up like the parents let them dress up like that. Or people don't see any problem. You watch commercials or television shows and kids dress like that. Got 14-year-old girls walking around in similar. It was a big thing. Thank God it is no more. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. But in the 90s when I was growing up, and you can see this on some of the old 90s shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Any Buffy fans? Anybody? Buffy. Angel fans? Angel? Spinoff? Angel? No. But it was a thing for girls not to wear underwear anymore because the jeans had become so tight. That was the fashion. The jeans were very, very tight. And I guess for some reason, just the way it wouldn't work. I mean, if you wanted to, you had to wear a G-string. So you'd see these girls, you know, young girls, very young girls walking around. And you could see the G-string going up around their belly, their lower belly, and their pants. So you knew. But if they didn't have that and they're wearing the belly pants, as they were called, they probably weren't wearing underwear. And I just mentioned Buffy because, you know, in some episodes of Buffy, you can see they're not wearing any underwear. They slipped. The cameraman, they forgot to edit. This cameraman caught something. Ooh, a little mooning of the camera, you know? Why? What was going on with that? Who told them to do that? How did that become a thing? I don't think it was parents who were telling their daughters, you know, why don't you wear these jeans, but, you know, you just can't wear any underwear with them because they're too tight. So just take off your underwear and put on these jeans. And it'll make your butt look really good. It, you know, pulls up your glutes. And okay. But they had them, like, going back to the Nickelodeon documentary, that's what young girls were wearing. Usually the girls. I don't think they were doing that so much to the guys. I don't remember if that was what they were. It was mainly females that these guys seem to be going after and sexualizing. Okay, well, like I've been told since I was young, yeah, no, it doesn't have any effect on you. You know, come on. Rock music, movies, video games, they don't influence you. You decide what you want to do, right? Well, we're talking about functional violence. Other influences. All right, whatever. And we were talking about the frustration aggression hypothesis. When we're frustrated, we become aggressive. Something is in our way. We become aggressive. Do I want to mention that? Or just move on to that? Okay. Now we're getting to a proper definition of violence. Violence, at its core, is destructive. It breaks things apart. It's a form of aggression, but not all aggression is destructive. But violence is destructive. It causes harm or injury to something else, or it offends, one might say, the integrity of another. What is integrity? There's your definition of integrity. Okay, completeness, I guess you could say. It's a fancy Latin word for completeness. Integer, Latin. Entire, from which we get our word entire, or through French. We want the Germanic word, it's whole, complete or perfected, yes. So the quality of being whole or complete, you have your integrity, your entirety. You know? I'm out swimming and a shark comes along and bites off my arm and you can't get it back from the shark. So I've lost my arm. My integrity has been violated. It's been offended. I am no longer whole. I'm missing what I had. I mean, can I still function? Obviously, yes, I can still function. Am I still a human being? Yes, that doesn't change my nature as a human being. But I'm not whole and entire anymore. The arm that I was born with, or that developed with me from the beginning, was there from the beginning and developed out of me in the womb, is now missing or lacking. It's violent, it's destructive. It caused harm or injury to me. Surgery does the same thing. I mean, I dropped off my little baby cat today. We got a kitten. Now we have 2 cats, both black, for Halloween. The older cat, of course, is, not too welcoming of this little cat violating her territory. But I dropped the little cat off today to the vet for her spaying. She's a female. So she gets having a little operation. They'll cut her open. I guess they remove the uterus. I thought they tied their tubes, but I guess they removed the uterus. We're also going to have her front claws taken off. Which, yes, I know for some people makes me a monster. I'm like the Adolf Hitler of the animal world. What? I mean, I couldn't get a cat for the longest time. I came close to getting a kitten, but, they keep presenting these agreements to me saying, I will never declaw my cat. I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. 2 people with lymphedema in their legs that, cat with claws will slice them open, even if you clip the claws. Then we're not giving you the cat. Nazi. Okay. But I can get the cat spayed. I can't have her uterus removed. That's apparently I'm not a Nazi. I'm violating. But it is violence. Surgery is violent. Okay? You're being cut open. Sometimes even parts of your body are being removed or cut off. There's harm or injury, obviously. There's blood issues and pain. And if you have to, usually I think, though, the intention is to restore the integrity or the wholeness of the body. Like something is damaged and surgeons are kind of like, they're doctors, but they're kind of like the repairmen, Whereas what do they call them? The docs and the surgeons. The real doctors are the ones that they think know. Usually the saying goes, they're the ones who know everything. They know why you're sick. Surgeons don't know anything, but they know how to fix everything. That's the difference. Okay? So, the regular doctors don't know how to fix you, but they know what's wrong. The surgeon doesn't know what's wrong, but if he's told, okay, that's what's broken, he knows exactly how to go in and fix it. That's usually the joke amongst nurses and doctors in hospitals. Of course, I would imagine surgeons are quite bright about illness, and also doctors at times do perform surgeries, even though they're not surgeons, technically. But it is violence. But your intention is different. It's usually the reverse, to preserve the integrity. This was not always the view of surgery. For example, it was, you know, surgery was not something that was really tolerated in the ancient world. Certainly not in Western culture. We have examples of ancient medicine where,
Homeowners insurance is property protection, potential components.
you're looking for a loan or something, or buying a new house.
That's not legal.
Yeah, oh, it's tweaking, so, yeah, laptops will do that, especially Apple ones, Macs. You should get Windows, it's more reliable. They'll spy on you morning, noon, and night, but it's more reliable. I've been trying to look into Linux. It's not ready for prime time yet. Even though all the Linux geeks are like, oh, man, you gotta believe. When you start using the language of religion for your computer operating system, I'll stick with what works, thanks. Stick with the scientific method. Leave my faith for other things. I've got better things to do with my faith. Computer system, not with. Man, what was I saying? Oh yeah, surgery. Yeah, there were examples of surgery in the ancient world. Drilling holes in people's heads to release pressure on the brain. Stuff like that. So we have some examples of ancient surgery. But, as you can probably imagine, it wasn't that common because, no anesthetics, no anesthesia and stuff like that. Infections, whatever. So, basically, much of ancient medicine in any culture, whether it was Greek culture or Chinese culture, stuff like this, was basically observational, looking at the body, touching the body, feeling the body, but not really seeing what was in the body, okay? So that's why you had all sorts of theories about, which turned out to be wrong, of how the body worked, Because you weren't allowed to violate the integrity of the human body. But if you needed to know how something worked, right, you need to take it apart sometimes, don't you? Don't you have to sometimes take it apart to see what's broken? No? Man. Is that one of the issues with, that's what I found with my computers and stuff. I've broken many computers. But one of the things that frustrates me is because it doesn't have any removing parts, so I can't see what's broken. But, if your car's broken, well, now they're mostly computers, aren't they? But in the old days, when your car was broken, you could hear something was wrong. I still couldn't figure out what the problem was. Engines just looked like a mess of stuff to me. I'm not a car guy. My brother is, but so don't ask me to tell you what's wrong. But, mechanics and people who fix engines, they could see in a heartbeat what wasn't right. Same thing with surgeons. They're pointing on the X-ray or the MRI, oh, you can see that there's this abscess here filled with fluid. We've got to do this. And I'm looking at the same thing. I'm not, but I look at maybe pictures on Wikipedia or something that show me pictures of stuff, medical stuff. I'm like, I don't see nothing. All I see is black and white imagery. I can't tell one thing from another, but surgeons can look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's there and that's there. Oh, and that's the problem. So you had the human body was considered sacred in a way. Which is kind of weird because, not really dedicated to the gods. But anyways, there was something about the body that you just didn't touch. You didn't cut it open. And especially this became a prevalent view in Christianity, Christianity and Judaism, because you are sacred, you're in the image and likeness of God, so you don't violate that image. So that there's a theological move. So for the longest time, the church, Catholic Church usually, was against surgery and stuff like that. It's not that they didn't allow it in some cases, because, one of the earliest universities in the 1200s was a medical school in northern Italy, in Bologna. It's known for teaching medicine. But typically they weren't cutting up human bodies and stuff like that. It could be bodies violating the integrity of the body. So they didn't know. until modern times, when that taboo was broken, in modern time when they started actually cutting open human bodies. I mean, you could cut open animals, and that helped. So you could cut open animals and see the circulatory system and look at their brain and their eyes and stuff. Typically didn't do it to humans, because that was considered wrong. It was a violation of the person. You were considered a grave robber. That's why they did grave robbing back in the 1800s. You had people, you had this black market in bodies and corpses, because there were people who wanted to dissect them for medical purposes, but the laws forbade them to do that. It violated the wholeness or completeness of the human form. Well, surgery does violate that. It is an attack, but the intention is different. I mean, if I stab you with a scalpel and slash you with a razor or stick you with a pin, those are different, obviously. They're violent, but it's also equally violent when a nurse or a doctor sticks a syringe into your skin or cuts you open with a scalpel. Don't use razors. You might use a razor to shave the area, but that's really not, that irritates the skin, but not really causing any damage, I guess. But yeah, you take a big scalpel or laser, whatever, and they skin and fat layers open up, and blood starts bubbling up. It's destructive, but it's different. According to the World Health Organization, which is part of the United Nations, this is their definition of violence. This is from a book, a publication they put out called Violence, a Public Health Priority. Who would like to read this quotation on violence from the World Health Organization? Ms. Jasmine? Good. Deprivation. What do you think maldevelopment means? What do you think maldevelopment means? Think of similar words that you know. Your computer gets malware. Yes, so take that and apply it to maldevelopment. Huh? Bad good. It's exactly what it means in Latin. Malum. Malus means bad, evil. Okay, so it's intentional use of force. They throw in there threatened or actual. I think they're trying to include like verbal violence, like yelling and screaming at someone, which in the law I think they call terroristic threats. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can, it could be threatening violence or actual violence, the act of violence, against you or somebody else, something else, that results in a high likelihood, it's kind of hedging things or fudging things a little bit there, but it results in injury, in death, psychological harm. Honestly, I think it might be too overbroad. I think I would focus here more on harm and injury. Okay, and forget about whether it's psychological, it's physical, whether the injury actually takes a person's life or a thing's life. It's simply injury or harm. Okay, I don't think if a person's punched in the face and they get a big bruise, a big hematoma from all the blood vessels that were damaged from the punch, and lymph vessels and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, but it doesn't kill them. I don't think they're going to quibble, about whether they caused death or it was caused, you know what I'm saying? Harm, injury. Okay. They also include deprivation. That I deprive you of something. So I guess starving someone, either to death or just starving them, period, could be seen as a form of violence. Even though you're not physically harming, you're not touching the person or screaming and yelling at the person or messing with their minds, gaslighting them to cause them injury. You're just taking something away from them or not giving them something that they need for their, again, for their integrity. Food, sleep. People don't think enough about this because sleep deprivation, I was reading a study on this. I have it, I think I have it in my computer, but I'm just remembering it. Yeah, sleep deprivation can kill a person. We need to sleep as much as we need to eat. It can kill someone because if I'm remembering the study that I read that's on my computer exactly, there was some kind of bacteria or stuff that would start gunking up in our intestines if we didn't go to sleep. Something, the body would start not performing. I guess it's kind of like if, you don't clean out the bad files on your computer, then your computer starts running slowly. Sleep is one of those things that where our body heals. Our brain kind of like a computer does a reboot. Our psychology kind of works out issues through dreams and stuff like that, dreaming. And apparently something is going on in our gastrointestinal system that's also cleaning stuff up. I guess don't quote me, I'd have to look at the article to get specifics. But yeah, something to do with the intestines that this not debris, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, whatever. Stuff started developing in the gastrointestinal system that could do harm to it, which could cause the person to die after several days of being sleep deprived. In addition to all the other stuff that could, like hallucinations, your brain starts freaking out and starts seeing things that aren't there apparently. But it is dangerous. So that could be a form of violence. Not doing anything physically to me necessarily, but maybe if you stick me in a room with the lights always on, and music or something always playing loudly, and every time I start to fall asleep, I don't know, you have some way to make the room shake or something, or whatever. I don't know, maybe I have to sit in a chair, the chair will shake, so I just cannot fall asleep. So that's what I think what they're getting with deprivation. They're trying to include things that are violence, but we would define them, Ms. Krauss, like as torture, right? More torture. But they are kind of also violence as well. You're intending to exert your power over another person by causing them injury. Make them do something or punish them or whatever by causing them pain, basically. The end result is pain. It hurts, right? Whether it's in your brain, in your mind, whether it's in your physical body, it hurts, right? Simple pain. Was he the cynic philosopher? Democritus, what's his name? Diogenes? Is that his name? Walked through the city streets with a candle in the nighttime, looking for, what are they looking for? An honest man, wise man? I forget what it's looking for something. Charlie Brown. So that's not a bad definition of violence, but I think it could be tightened up a little bit. But it is a little bit broad, I think. And you might also question some aspects of it. Is intentional necessary? Because, Mr. Klitsch, if I hit you, and I'm going to, and I would never think of doing it, Mr. Klitsch, but,
I believe it.
yeah. But if, or just say someone hit you, like punched you in the face, and they intended to do it like you're in a fight, that's violence, right? But let's say it's, like a baby or something, like if you're holding a little kid or a baby and the kid just is moving and slaps you in the face, hits you in the face. You wouldn't think that's intended, right? Wouldn't it still be violent?
I mean, no. Unless it's like an evil baby.
So the intention does matter for you. Okay, because I was thinking no myself. I was thinking like, does it matter? Is it? But isn't it still? I mean, what if? But what if the kid like hits you really? Like the kid like stabs you with a fork or something? The little baby's playing and just like,
Well,
and you bleed.
I feel like if it was a little baby, they wouldn't have a real fork. They'd have like a random people. But
All right.
I feel like in the same sense, it's like they don't and stab. They just do it.
Okay.
And like I feel like it's different. Like just say like Gavin stabbing. I feel like that's different because like he is more conscious. He's more conscious than a baby would be.
You okay? Okay. No, I get you. I was listening to what you were saying. But what about I don't know, an animal or two or something like that? Do you have any dogs or anything? Yeah. Have they ever scratched you
Yeah.
or bitten you? Maybe not bitten. Scratched you? Drawn blood? They scratch you, but they haven't drawn blood. Okay. Just find someone who likes cats. That's because cats have really sharp claws. They draw blood. You can't see it from my little baby that we got, and I wouldn't show it to you. Fire. But it was adopted. I've got like little scratch marks all over my chest and my belly. Not on my legs so much. She doesn't climb at my leg, but she's all over my back and my belly. It's trying to work on the computer. And she likes the movement of them. Apparently, I guess she likes the movement, so she likes to watch it. And yeah, she's drawing. I got blood all over the place, like someone whipped me. Violence?
Yeah.
But I don't think she conformed the intent, right? She's a little animal, a little cat. Or like I said, like with a little baby. The baby's, playing with a sharp object or something. I don't know, just drops it on or something, and somehow it causes a bruise, or anything causes a bruise or cuts you or some way draws some blood. Wouldn't that be violence? No. All right. Okay. Well, okay. So we agree to disagree on that one. I can see your point. Maybe you can see my point as well, but I see your point. Intention can be important, and it does make. I think there is kind of an emphasis on the physical, even though it mentions psychological harm. But it says it here it's a physical force. Why physical? What about emotional trauma? In some cultures, maybe not in our culture. Although it's funny how things come up. This this cook. I'm sorry, because I want to say Koch or Coke because it's German. It's German, right? I'm not this. So it's like combining that with Cook, and it's just not. But I'm sorry. Okay, so Ms. Cook. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was watching a video the other day. This guy, Drew Binsky, he's a nice guy, travels all over the world to different countries, different communities. And his latest video, I guess it's for Halloween time, he was visiting a satanic cult. As soon as I saw that in the video title, I'm like, I'm there, baby. I want to see the satanic cult. But it was a bait click thing because it wasn't a satanic cult. It was some witch lady who was a Satanist, yes, but she wasn't running any cult. Anyways, okay, fine. So he got me. And I watched a little bit of it. But yeah, as a Satanist and as a witch, I didn't know the two I guess the two aren't mutually exclusive. I thought people in Wicca were not necessarily Satanists. She's both, this lady. But she casts spells and curses on people. She also does blessings and nice things, nice stuff. But she will throw a curse on somebody to harm them if, if they're mean to her or bad to her in her way. And she's serious about this. She's not like joking. This is real for her. But I wouldn't say that, practicing witchcraft is physical, because the witch is trying to use the mind or a supernatural realm or something to inflict harm on somebody. Whether you believe it's true or just a lot of hokum, I don't think that matters, but it's not physical. So I don't know that I would emphasize so much as physical force, just that there is some kind of force that someone's tapping into to cause harm to another person, okay, intentionally. Because sorcery and witchcraft are still real things in some cultures on the planet. Maybe not so much for us, but even for us. This lady was living in Massachusetts, in the United States of America, and she believed in the power of her curses and also her blessings, but she believed in their power. If she cursed someone, she could make them get sick. And why is it threatening? Threatened. Oh, I mentioned threatened already, so I'll move on. According to Darlene Fozard-Weaver, who is a theologian from Duquesne University. Duquesne's in Ohio, right? I think it's in Ohio. No, it's here in Pennsylvania. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Spiritan University, isn't it? Congregation of the Holy Spirit Fathers. Could be wrong. Anyways, Duquesne, okay, in Pittsburgh. She wrote the chapter on violence and religion in Meyer's Introduction to Religious Studies. I believe it's on the syllabus. You have to read it yet? Let's take a peek. Yes, you should have read that back for October 9th. So if you haven't, take a look at it, please. It's on Canvas. Anyways, according to her article, violence is the destructive exercise of power. And I think that's a shorter and probably a better definition than the World Health Organization's. I would say the destructive use of force. I'd say force rather than power. Okay, because power can have so many other interpretations. But violence, according to her, Weaver, it's the destructive use of force. Okay, so violence is a form of aggression. This is the definition I'll give you. The word violence is a form of aggression that uses the power, force. Did I say I prefer force? It uses force to cause injury. Okay? The power of force. All right. So it's not sounding redundant. It uses force to cause injury. Now, even though I crossed this out, the power of force, okay, Ms. Rogers, be on alert, Mr. Rand. Okay, be on alert, Mr. Ruddle, et cetera, and so forth, my people. That's how it might appear in the quiz. How it probably will appear. So just know that that's still the right answer. Okay? Just power of force is a little bit redundant. And I prefer to use the word force. Okay? But I'm not going to revise the PowerPoint now. And I'm not going to try to confuse everybody. So just be aware of that when if the word comes up on your next quiz for violence. All right? A form of aggression that uses force to cause injury. Comes from the Latin word vis, which means strength, force. Where we get our vigor from, power, energy, shock. All right. So the exertion of strength, the application of vis, of force or strength onto something. And strength is probably, I guess, the more original idea. A lot of these words go back to very, very basic notions, and then they become conceptualized. But this back to strength, Maybe they had a commercial many years ago for Planet Fitness. Want to go to Planet Fitness? Anyone have met? Anyone know Planet Fitness? They had a commercial, maybe it was 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. These real big bodybuilders in the commercial and say, I pick things up and put things down. I pick things up and put things down. I bet they're making fun of me. kind of stereotypical. I mean, they thought it was funny. But anyways, but strength, you know, I can pick up a big boulder, you know, I'm strong, which means I have peace. And then you conceptualize it, which means I'm powerful. You know? He's dead now, may rest in peace. So you still remember who he is. Hulkamania. Hulkamania, the three demands. Let's see if I can remember. Say your prayers, take your vitamins, something else. So I can't even remember the three demands. And yet the Jewish God wants me to remember 10. Good luck with that. Seeing if you're paying attention. Violence. Why are there different forms? Because it changes Latin according to its use, grammatical usage. So vis is the subject form. Vis is the genitive possessive form. Plural is vires. Vires. And it's all bound up. It's all bound up with maleness. Virtue, the word virtue, or the word for a male human being is vir in Latin, vir. We have that still in English. We have a similar word, werewolf, man-wolf. So were means in werewolf. It's a related form from Anglo-Saxon. Wera, meaning a man. Vir in Latin. A male human being, yes? And so strength is associated with the male, not the female. That's just how it is in the. Sexism is embedded in the language. All right, virtue. We use the word virtue. Virtue means manliness. So, can a woman be virtuous? Of course she can. Preserve your virtue, right? Woman can be virtuous. But if she's virtuous, she means, she acts like a guy. She's like a guy. I'm just pointing out that there's sexism. Yes, there is sexism embedded in the word. Strength and the word that derive from it for man, vir in Latin, there's a reason why they look very similar, even the same, because, yes, strength and being a man, a male, are associated. Carlson, who is Carlson? Oh, the Blackwell Companion to Religion and Violence, and his John D. Carlson, in his article, Religion and Violence, Coming to Terms with Terms. I don't think I assigned that for reading purposes. No, I don't see it here. I don't think I assigned it. I did assign it I think in the previous time that I taught this course, but not for this one. Anyways, but in an article talking about terminology, this guy, John D. Carlson, says that, the word vis in Latin captures the empirical or effectual meaning of violence, particularly the subject's experience of it, which I think he means the strength or the force. You might put it this way, Mr. Dobson, you know violence when you feel it. Maybe not so much when you see it, but you certainly know it when you feel it, okay? You feel the force or the strength, okay? Even though the effects of violence might not only be physical, there may be mental violence as well, psychological violence. So we're focusing mainly here on the victim in the definition. We're not the recipient of the force, okay? It doesn't necessarily cause an injury to the person inflicting the violence. So you see the focus here is more on the victim than on the violator, okay? Although it can hurt. I mean, I've probably thrown a punch in my life, but I'm a big yellow belly, so I like to say I'm a lover, not a hater, not a fighter. But no, I'm just a coward. Mr. Lynch. I got to be honest with myself. But from what I understand from people who do get into fights sometimes, it hurts. I mean, yeah, you can punch a guy out, but it still hurts your hand, apparently, to punch somebody. So, I mean, yeah, you might play basketball or football or whatever, and you're throwing the elbows or you're, plowing into each other, but making tackles or running with the ball or whatever. But, both sides might end up with bruises all over their body, even though, the tackler might be the one technically, you might say, who's meting out the violence, or the person on the basketball team who's, elbowing the guy in the ribs. He's technically the one who's being violent to the other guy trying to shoot the ball. But, he might get some bruises too on his body from that contact and stuff like that. So, we're looking mainly from the victim's perspective, but even from the violator, the person perpetrating it, they can also get hurt as well. But if the injury to them is not considered, see, the injury to them is irrelevant. All right. So from violence, we get related terms. Let's see if I put this on the PowerPoint. Oh, we get related terms like violo, a verb, which means to treat with violence, from which we get our word violate, to violate someone. I feel violated, comes from violo, to treat with violence. I've been injured. I've been violated. And what's interesting about the word violo is that it can also have the meaning of Miss Horan, too profane. Remember our old friend profane, Ms. Lazarus? What is profane, Ms. Lazarus? What is profane? Well, first let's address, what is it in relation to? Part of a duality, dyad, two things. The blank and the profane. What's the other one? What is it in relation to? Oh, Lord. Ooh, Miss Durant. You've been listening. I don't know why, because my students look like they're learning. It makes me look. Look. You okay? All right. Profane, outside of the church or outside of the temple. Yes, profanum. For the temple, whatever happens outside of the blank space, the space dedicated to the God. Huh? Sacred space, so sacred and profane. That which is dedicated to the gods and everything else outside of that, which is profane. So violo can mean to profane something. So you're harming something sacred. You're treating it profanely. Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, if I wanted to play with this a bit, then I could say, like I was saying before, does that mean, if you logically follow that through, that means that the human person or something that you violate, especially the human person, but I guess it could apply to animals as well. Maybe things, tree. You've profaned them, which means that they are sacred to begin with. Made them non-sacred. Interesting. I don't think about that. Think more about that. But again, it comes back to a religious idea, right? Profane, outside the temple. Right, Mr. Henry? So religion and violence, again, are intertwined. Even in the word violence and violo, to do violence. You have this idea of the sacred and the profane already. Embedded in it, yeah? Maybe? Okay. So we see the presence of religion. It's not the matter of doing something bad or violating to it's a matter of something being bad done to a religious person or an object. So it's an attack against the sacred. So this is interesting. I was thinking about this. By definition, violence, if it's an attack against the sacred, a profanation, Mr. Dobson, it means that by definition, violence is anti-religious. Does that make sense? It's actually an action against the sacred, violence. It's an offense against religion, which has to do with the sacred, right? Religion is the way that mankind tries to use the sacred to interact with ultimate reality. Yeah? But violence doesn't do that. It violates that order. It profanes it. Which means that technically, by definition, I guess you have to say religion and violence don't go together. They can't go together. Violence makes the sacred profane, non-religious. Or at least they shouldn't go together. There's a thought. Et tu. So one might say, this is my final thought, one might say that to commit violence in the name of religion is a form of existential suicide. There can be no religious violence because you're killing religion itself in a way. You're violating religion. It's a form of religious suicide of your religion. All right. God bless you all. I'll see you on Thursday. Oh. Have a good day. See ya. Okay. Good day, sir. Have a good day, sir.